A psychologist at Oxford compiled a really interesting list of the professions that have the most psychopaths. Now, we'll get to the list in a second, but first, let me define psychopath for you. Scientific American describes them like this, quote, superficially charming, psychopaths tend to make a good first impression on others and often strike observers as remarkably normal. Yet they are self-centered, dishonest, and undependable, and at times they engage in irresponsible behavior for no apparent reason other than the sheer fun of it. Largely devoid of guilt, empathy, and love, they have casual and callous interpersonal and romantic relationships. Psychopaths routinely offer excuses for their reckless and often outrageous actions, placing blame on others instead. They rarely learn from their mistakes or benefit from negative feedback, and they have difficulty inhibiting their impulses. So keep in mind that the overwhelming majority of psychopaths aren't criminals, and they aren't violent. And many of them get along just fine in society. Now, I was surprised when I read that. I wouldn't have guessed that that was the case. But apparently, according to the medical community, they're like, no, that's absolutely the case. Most psychopaths just get along fine in society. Only a very small percentage of them end up committing crimes. But those traits I named off for you here basically make up what they call a psychopath. So, with that being said, here's the top 10 professions with psychopaths. Number 10, civil servants. Well, that's fucking random. Apparently, they explain in the article that the power that comes with a government role is something that they crave. So having that like authority just by your position is enough, where more psychopaths go into civil servant jobs than other jobs. They say number 9 is chefs. Again, seemingly random, but they're really creative. They work crazy hours, and many of them have a reputation of being impulsive and bossy. They even have some quotes in the article from like Anthony Bourdain and some of the other famous chefs who have cooking shows where some of them go over the top and they say, you know, the chefs are all like, they're all crazy people and they're all insanely narcissistic and insecure. I don't know if I go that far, but they're saying that statistically there's a higher percentage of psychopaths who are chefs than in other professions. Number 8 is clergy. Surprising absolutely nobody. So they love control over people. They love having a platform, and oftentimes they manipulate, and they do it for the worse. I mean, you look at the Catholic child fucking scandal and how widespread it was and how much covering up there was, and you can see that makes perfect sense. I'm not surprised at all that clergy has more psychopaths. And it's for all religions, let's be clear. Same thing in the Muslim faith. A lot of the leaders are fucking psychopaths. Christianity, any religion, you name it. For number 7, they say police. Virtually every black person in America is going, that's 100% right. And look, it's true. That's why so many stories about abuse of authority. Yeah, a certain personality wants to be a police officer. Again, not every police officer, but there is a higher percentage of psychopaths who are police than in other professions. Number 6 is a journalist. They say wanting to be in those really high-stress situations, like where you're fucking embedded in ISIS territory in Syria or some shit, and getting the attention, getting the camera on you, or writing a story about it. They say that's part and parcel of somebody who's a psychopath. It's, you know, very similar to their beliefs. It falls right in line with that. They say number 5 is a surgeon. And the reasoning is interesting. They say it really requires no emotion. Like, you can't be emotional. You can't look at who you're operating on as a person. So you got to be disconnected to a certain extent. There's a quote in the article, too, about how somebody said all surgeons are serial killers who found a way to use their identity in a socially acceptable way. Again, that's too far. I wouldn't go that far, but they're saying that disconnected feeling is something that you almost want with a surgeon, because if you have somebody emotional operating on you that knows it's a person they're operating on, they could fuck up easy because it's high stakes. For a psychopath, they could do it in an easier way, believe it or not. So that's number 5. Number 4 is a salesperson. Not surprising at all. I was a salesperson for a while. It is a certain personality that has to do it. I mean, it's almost like you're a paid manipulator in many ways, because you're trying to say there's nothing but good things about this thing that you're considering buying, so don't you want to buy it? Let me give you more reasons as to why it's so great. So almost built into the role of salesperson is you have to be disingenuous to a certain extent. And I hated it, which is why, you know, eventually I was out of there. But I'm not surprised by that one. Number 3 media hosts. They say in the article TV and radio. I'm sure also they would include internet in that. So, am I a psychopath? I'll leave that up to you guys. Number 2 is lawyer. Not surprising. Look, neither one is surprising. If you want everybody to hear everything you say, if you're a media host, or if you want to try to argue a certain position regardless of the facts when you're a lawyer, that's another thing. And number 1, CEO, you can lump the final 3 in together. Yeah, there is something about wanting all the power that a CEO has, for example, which is kind of psychotic. And they have to be cutthroat. They have to fire people. They have to do all these things that normal people don't want to do. So that makes sense. Higher percentage of psychopaths there. Lawyer, same thing. You have to make arguments for even the wrong side to try to win all the time. That's fairly psychotic. And media hosts too. Look, I think our profession, the profession I'm in, I think it is true that I look at fucking Bill O'Reilly's the perfect example. The perfect example of somebody who's a psychopath. Just totally in love with himself and his own opinions, doesn't consider anything else from anybody else. And you see that a lot of those personality traits fit him well. So there you have it, the top 10 professions that have more psychopaths. And you guys better watch out because I fit into 2 of the top 10 professions I've done at some point and am doing right now.